Om Sadashiva-Samayambam Shankaracharya-Madhyamam Asmadacharya-Paryantam Vande Guru-Parampara. So, let me type the reading order, and after that we can start. Heaven Bhai, can you start reading?
Okay. So can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. Moksha is freedom from insecurity. If if what I really want is total security, then it cannot be something other than myself. For there is not any one thing. For there is not any one thing called total security. Are you seeking security or are you seeking freedom from insecurity? This is the question. In fact, what you are seeking is freedom from insecurity, freedom from dissatisfaction. This freedom is called moksha. It comes from the root muk in Sanskrit, meaning freedom. Freedom from something you do not want, which is centered on ego. So the fourth Purushartha is moksha, freedom from insecurity. Are are there four Purusharthas or only one? Suppose you have this freedom, then there are no other Purushartha. You start with Dharma, Artha, Kama, and end up in Moksha. Once you once you discern what Moksha is, then all the other subserve it. Purusharthas subserve it. They do not go away. They subserve the main Purushartha. You can have Artha, Kama pursuits, Dharma pursuits. They are all on the way, but you have a very clear vision of what you want, which is moksha. This is when life gains a meaning. Pursuits become much more meaningful if moksha is further understood. So, we have two types of sadhana. There is a sadhana for self growth, and there is a sadhana for moksha. Without self growth, there is no possibility of moksha. These two sadhanas constitute the whole Vedanta Shastra, non connection between sadhana and sadhya. It is very clear that you seek freedom from things that you do not want. If you look into the human situation, a human being does not like to be insecure, does not like to be dissatisfied, and does not want to be under the spell, under the tyranny of his or her emotions. The tyranny of emotions is the worst because you cannot get away from it. If there is a tyrant outside, you can instigate some people, create a movement against this tyrant. You can also move away from that tyrannical kingdom, but the tyranny of emotions is something that you cannot get out of. Nobody wants to be sad, but one is sad. Sadness is an emotion, and that is tyranny. The tyranny of emotions is because of the inner pressures, which makes even adharma routine, which make even adharma routine and acceptable for a person, not because he or she loves adharma. If what is done is not acceptable, it is the tyranny that makes a person act in a way he or she does. It is not only acceptable it is not only acceptable to others but also not acceptable to oneself. Yet one does it. Therefore, one in under the tyranny of certain pressures which are more often than not emotional. One wants to be free from the tyranny of emotions, from the sense of insecurity and from a sense of dissatisfaction. Dharma, in other words, should be very natural to me. Artha Kama pursuits must be enjoyable to me. My enjoyment should not depend on them. My security should not depend upon what I do not have. It means any pursuit is enjoyable. If that is so, then we are One second, I missed it. Okay, it means my any pursuit is enjoyable. If that is so, then we see a problem here. An absence of connection between sadhana and sadhya means and end. What I want is freedom from insecurity. What I do is only something which will perpetuate the insecurity. The insecure I having some extra money or temporary power does not make me secure. I do not say there is no value for money, not at all. There is value for money. It is buying power. What it can do, nothing else can do. There is no doubt about that. But to say that money will give me freedom from insecurity is unnecessarily inputting a value that unfortunately it does not have. Money cannot take away the sense of insecurity centered on me. I am insecure and I am conscious of that. Insecurity is from different standpoints. I am tomb-bound, I am mortal, death can come at any time. The knowledge that I am immortal itself makes me insecure. I am small. My powers, resources, knowledge, and skills are very limited. There is there is more I cannot than I can. I am someone who is pitted against the whole world. This is the situation, subject object situation. I am the subject and the world, the entire universe barely understood by me is the object. I do not even know what the forces are which are out to get me. There are too many. It makes me more apprehensive. I against the old world is a losing proposition. The stance of Jiva is the stance of a fighter. What I'm fighting against, what they are, I do not even know. I am insecure. I am insecure is a fact that I cannot handle. I cannot say, Swamiji, I am very happy because I am insecure. Insecurity implies all that I do not want such an anxiety, fear, sadness, and helplessness. We have a technical word for this, samsara. The person in samsara is called a samsari. When a samsari comes, samsara comes along. With him or her, one does not need another person to be a samsari. Yeah. Therefore, what do I want? Samsarat moksha. I want freedom from samsara, which is also called bhava, becoming. The samsari wants to be free from this process of becoming. This freedom is called moksha. Having discerned the problem, any pursuit that is directed towards moksha, freedom, is considered a spiritual pursuit. But then I need to analyze the means and end. The sadhana sadhya to know how appropriate the pursuit is. Prior to that, I have to see the absence of connection between what I do and what I want. I want to be free from becoming, and what I do is always a becoming process, including going to heaven. Even I go to heaven after death, my journey is not over with the death of this body. The insecure, incomplete, inadequate, dissatisfied person continues to be inadequate. Dissatisfied person continues to be same. Once I leave heaven, because it is time bound, I start all over again. The journey continues. The becoming person continues. There is an absence of connection between what I do and what I want. No connection between the pursuits of artha or kama or dharma, the heaven going pursuit, and the moksha that I want. I will get artha and not moksha. I will get a kama and not moksha. I will get heaven, not moksha. What I want ultimately and what I do have no connection. This analysis is called viveka and vairagya. When I discover what I really want, I also I also see the absence of connection between what I do and what I want. I have viveka and vairagya. Viveka, discriminative understanding, is seeing the absence of connection between what I do and what I want. While vairagya is is the response to seeing the absence of connection. Viveka and Vairagya become very important in search for the solution. I become very objective in my pursuits. I go for money's sake, not for freedom from my insecurity. I go for pleasure's sake, not for freedom from being dissatisfied. When I see the absence of connection, there is Viveka Vairagya. The pursuit gains a new direction. We have a sadhya called moksha. Can you come down?
No, we can. I think so far what is being discussed is same topic we have already read in both introduction to Vedanta and before that in Tat- Tattva Bodha also. I think, is there anything to discuss or any doubt or anything? We can discuss that, else we can continue to next portion. One point is that Vairagya should be seen as a consequence or an outcome that results from Viveka. It's not like saying, okay, some desires are bad and we should not have it. Trying to suppress the desires is not Vairagya. Trying to get rid of it is not exactly Vairagya. Vairagya comes from the very understanding that these are limited, the awareness that these are limited and they don't provide us with security and um, that don't provide us freedom from insecurities results in vairagya, a certain dispassion towards all these desires. Yeah, it's a good question.
I always see vairagya as um, deciding whether something is permanent or impermanent. Like um, that's how I've seen it. Maybe my understanding is wrong.
Yeah, that's what actually we learned in Tattva Bodha. What is Nitya and Anitya Vastu. The distinction is between what is permanent and what is impermanent. So the Atma and the other Atma alone being permanent or Brahman alone being permanent and the rest of the world being changing and impermanent makes us have a certain dispassion towards the worldly objects which we depend upon for security and pleasures. I think next two.
Do you want me to
Okay,
read?
Anjuji, can you read the next? Yeah,
Sure, I'll be glad to.
please.
The sadhana for moksha. What is familiar for moksha? What will help me gain moksha? Any any becoming or change on my part is not going to help. I continue to be samskari, the sam I am samsari. The samsari does something to bring about a change. It is a change of samsari. The change is for the samsari. In other words, the samsari has a new attribute, a new embellishment, samsari remaining the same. So there is no drastic change possible because the one who undergoes the change is a samsari. The samsari continues to be with some new changes. I am in a very helpless situation where without bringing about a change, I cannot solve the problem of being a samsari. Is there a possibility of solving the problem? If so, what is the possibility? It is a change without a change. Is there such a thing as a change without a change? There is, and it is possible, and that is what we want to know, a change without a change. Let us assume there is a prince who, who was lost as a child. The prince grows up to become a young man in a tribal community, hunting for food, living in the forests and mountains without knowing that he is a prince. The people from the palace locate and identify him. They show him the birthmarks, the records, and so on. Suppose with enough evidence he is told, "You are a prince." He recognizes that he is a born prince and has been a prince, but never knew he was one. When he comes to discover that he is a prince, does he undergo a change in terms of birth and so on? And to become the prince, or does he become a prince without a change? He becomes a prince, all right, without undergoing any change, because he has been a prince without knowing the fact. That is the only possibility here. The object of knowledge is he, and the one who knows also is he. The knower and the object of knowledge happen to be identical. The one who is to be known here is oneself. That is the reason why an outside help is necessary because of this notion, because of his notion, I am a tribal. There is also no way of correcting this notion unless someone who knows his identity comes and tells him, you are not a tribal, you are a prince. Just making the statement, he does not become a prince either. He has to know, perhaps he can believe, have Shraddha in that man's word, yet he has to discover the fact that I am a prince. He requires proper evidence. So the pramanas, so the pramanas, the means of knowledge and all that are necessary are given to him, and he recognizes the fact, I am a prince. Then he is a prince. His behavior may continue to be tribal for some time. He has to learn to live like a prince, think like a prince, and act like a prince. There is a process for that, an entirely new process, which is different altogether. A change without a change has taken place. There is a change because of knowledge, but the object of the knowledge is the same. It has not changed. Similarly, by change, I cannot become a samsari. I cannot become a samsari. That is, I cannot have freedom from samsara. With change, it is not possible, and without change, also, it is not possible. Then what is the third possibility? The third possibility is change without a change in terms of one's own self-identity. On the part of this prince, there was a change in the wake of a knowledge, a change in terms of his self-identity, that he was born a prince and is a prince. This change in knowledge of one's self-identity is what we say Atma Jnanam, self-knowledge, and knowledge being what it is always true to the object.
Again, the same revision we are doing, but we need to do this continuous revision, because we may have intellectually understood that all this, that moksha is the only pursuit and other are serving pursuits, and all that we have understood theoretically, but we are not actually aware of that. Most of the times we forget it. It is not in our awareness. So we want to, this continuous hearing will enable us realize that, uh, realize and have this in our life. Okay, next one. Nirmala ji, can you continue?
Yeah, Hari Om. Moksha is already an accomplished fact. Moksha, freedom, is Siddha Vishaya, an already accomplished fact from the standpoint of the vision of the Shastra and from the standpoint of the nature of Atma. Freedom from samsaratvam is the nature of Atma, which is moksha. But from the standpoint of the person who wants moksha, it is a sādhyā vishaya to be accomplished like the princehood. I am a prince is already an accomplished fact, siddha, but as he does not know the fact, it becomes a sādhyā. If the already accomplished siddha is to be accomplished, sādhyā, the accomplishment cannot be by a process of becoming. It can only be by a means of knowing. So the desire for moksha, freedom from samsara, is converted into a desire for knowing oneself. Desire for moksha is there in everyone, but only some people discern it. Everyone wants freedom from samsaratvam, freedom from self-non-acceptance. There is no exception, but it is not known. So the desire for moksha is transformed into a desire for self-knowledge, atma jitnyasa. Mumuksha, moktumicha, is converted into jitnyasa, jnanatumicha. The conversion of the desire for moksha into a desire for self-knowledge, jitnyasa, is important, for then life gains a direction.
That is very important actually. We have been seeking freedom from insecurity even before we came to study Vedanta, or even before we knowing Ashavidya or anything. We have been searching for this freedom from insecurity. Since birth itself, we are seeking a freedom from this sense of insecurity and inadequacy. So we are always searching for moksha, but it is only when we meet a teacher and listen and hear from him, we understand what he says, then only we are come to realize that we are actually seeking freedom from insecurity than other securities like money or any sort of pleasures. So mukshutvam becomes jitnyasa, jnatum icha. Yeah. Okay, next. Solving, please continue.
I'll read.
Yeah.
Okay, and you read.
Solvik-ji, I'll read then, okay? Is that okay?
It is fine.
Okay. The 5 means of knowledge. The sadhana for self-knowledge. Knowledge, in general, is always gained by a means of knowledge. If we want to see color and form, the eyes become the sadhana, means of knowledge. In Sanskrit, prama is knowledge, and pramanam is means of knowledge. The 5 senses that a human being is endowed with form one means of knowledge. Each sensory experience or cognition, whether it is seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, or touching, is a perception. Let us call this sensory knowledge as one born of perception. In Sanskrit, it is called pratyaksham, direct perception. So perception is a means of knowing different objects such as form, sound, and so on, directly with the senses. Even if you add instruments like microscope or telescope to your eyes for seeing things that you did not see before, it is still pratyaksha because you are seeing directly. The basic data are from perception. Conclusions are arrived by another means of knowledge called anumana, inference, a very valid means of knowledge. On the basis of perceptual data, you draw some inferences. Anumana is a twofold. When you put the kettle on the stove, you see the steam through the spout in the kettle. Looking at the steam, you conclude that the water has reached the required temperature. This is one-step inference. Two-step inference is called arthapatti. Arthapatti, we call it presumption, which you arrive at by implication. The implication is that otherwise it is not possible. The reason is that 2 facts reveal the impossibility of one fact. The one is impossible unless there is something else to prove it. All medical diagnoses are 2-step inferences. The doctor gives you medicine by this inference. They negate other possibilities and then decide that this must be the problem. Therefore, this should be the prescription. Inference is a very important means of knowledge for your daily activities. There is another means of knowledge that is neither perception nor inference nor presumption. It is called upamanam. Upamanam means upamiti karanam, that which helps you gain approximate knowledge, such as an illustration or comparison to something similar. When we see that a bison is like a water buffalo, the like buffalo is called upamanam. It is jnanam and it will help you identify a bison later. There is yet another means of knowledge that is very important, the knowledge of absence. I ask you, is there a pot on my left hand? You say no. How do you know I have absence of pot in my left hand? It is perception. Do you see directly with your eyes? You say yes. Eyes can only see an object, but not the absence of an object. The absence of a pot does not reflect light. Not only absence of a pot, it could also be absence of an elephant, of a horse, or anything. When I ask you if there is a pot, your reply is in the negative. So knowledge of absence is as important as knowledge of presence. Only when you know what you do not have, you can be more practical. Pragmatism means you must have complete knowledge of what you lack. How do you arrive at that absence of knowledge? It is not inference, it is not presumption, and it is not born of an example either. It is another means of knowledge called anupalabdhi, a means of knowledge revealing absence. There is no equivalent English word for this. Even though it is based upon perception, it is different. Hence, it has taken another meaning of knowledge. Anupalabdhi is very important in medical diagnosis, in physics, in chemistry, and pharmaceuticals, and so on. You employ these five means in your pursuit of knowledge, whether it is in technology, in fundamental research, or in simply day to day living. These five means of knowledge are the hands of the subject you, the samsari. All cognitive pursuits are possible for the samsari. You need not know your swarupa in order to operate these five means and gather knowledge of what you can objectify. Samsaritvam is centered on the knower who employs these five means of knowledge. If the samsari wants to know the swarupa, the truth of Atma, then can any one of these means of knowledge serve the purpose of revealing the nature of Atma? One uses the eyes to see an object. The one who is seeing the object is a samsari, and he has to see himself, for which eyes and ears are useless. Anumana and other means of knowledge that depend upon perception also will not help. Anupalabdhi is meant for knowing absence, again by samsari himself. So, all the five means of knowledge are inadequate for self knowledge. By themselves, they are useful and are meant for things that one can objectify, that one can relate to as object. Form, sound, smell, taste, and touch. All these are objects to which one relates as subject. In an inferred conclusion, I am the subject of the inferred object. In an assumed object, I am the subject. Any approximate knowledge that I gather through upamana, comparison, I am subject of that knowledge. In the bison example, the bison is not I. I am the knower of the bison. I am the knower of the absence of the pot. So, the knower is the subject, Atma, and what is known, objectified, is not Atma, it is Anatma. This is how the inquiry is conducted. Subject is Atma and the object is Anatma. What is Anatma? The sun, moon, stars, trees, and flowers. All of them are Anatma, objects of my knowledge. The five means of knowledge are meant for gaining the knowledge of Anatma. Can you scroll down?
Yeah. Sorry, some. 1 second. Okay.
Yeah. One can be a great scientist, a highly informed person, even a Nobel laureate in a particular discipline of knowledge. Yet one need not know oneself. One need not know these disciplines of knowledge to know oneself. To know the nature of this Atma, one has no means of knowledge. None of the five means of knowledge has its employable for self-knowledge, and self-knowledge cannot happen without an appropriate means of knowledge. Is there then a sixth means of knowledge?
This is again a very important point. I don't think this was discussed in the texts. I mean, not in this detail. It was, yeah, in Tattva it was somewhat discussed, but introduction to Vedanta, it does not come that much in detail. There are these different means of knowledge are introduced to us, and what we have to understand about Vedas is that what we have to gain from Vedas is not what we can not we not that we cannot gain from any other source of knowledge, any other means of knowledge. So that is very important. Vedas give us what something, the knowledge about something which other none of the other means of knowledge can give you. Like just like our eyes can't hear and ears cannot see. What given by what we get from through Vedas is not attainable from any other means of knowledge. So that is important here to understand. We see a lots of nonsense like in the YouTube and other websites. We see that Veda being 100% scientific and Veda being proven right by science. It cannot happen because science is based on the two all these the earlier said five pramanas. Science, all that science has is based on these five pramanas, and Veda is not about Veda does not reveal something that can be understood by perception or inference or anupalabdhi or anything, upamana or anything. So whatever be what you can say scientifically proven on anything, that means we cannot verify what we the information given by uh, one way of means one means of knowledge with another.
Shyamabhai, I
But
have a
yes,
Yeah, please.
okay, you carry on. I'll ask later.
no, I was just saying that these five means of knowledge, these five pramanas, are something that we use for our day-to-day activities in the Vyavharika realm. But if you want self-knowledge, that cannot happen through these five pramanas. For this, we need Vedas.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. What I wanted to know was like, I usually get a lot of confusion when the terms go into subject and object, when it says like this becomes subject and that becomes object. I usually get confused with these terms. Like if you can explain me a little more how easily I can understand those
Okay.
terms, it is helpful. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Subject is what I cannot objectify. Like I can see my body, I can see this, I can see that, see or hear whatever objects in this world exist. I can't understand through perception or inference. That those are called objects. But I can see my hand. So when I say I am not my hand. If I were my hand, I cannot see the hand. I I have a separate existence from this hand. Uh, Similarly, my body also I can know that my body. I can study my body, objectify my body. Similarly, everything I can objectify. That mind I can objectify. Whatever I have, I can objectify. But the real I, that is subject. The real I is Atma, the consciousness, the very awareness that I exist. That consciousness is the real I. That I can never objectify. That I cannot using these senses and other things, I cannot objectify that.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks. Yeah, I understood that. That is much more clear now. Yeah. Thanks.
Okay. So subject is what cannot be objectified. Subject exactly. Yeah, subject is what cannot be objectified by our perception and other means of knowledge, and object we always are able to know through our senses and perception and inference. We can study all these objects. That is not uh, I can say anything that I can say that this is my body. When I say my, it means it belongs to me, but that is not me. So my son, my daughter, my body, my eyes, my mind, everything. Nobody says my atma. That is not a correct word. Atma is myself. So I don't say I don't have an atma. I am the atma. So that is me, the subject, and the rest of it is all object. That is all belongs to me or not belongs to me. It exists different from me. So that those are objects.
Okay. So if except like I, the Atma, everything else is object, right?
Object, yeah, definitely. Everything else is object. And what we are understanding is that we are trying to. That is, we are. Our objective is to understand this I as identical to Brahman. That is the true nature of I. That is the what Veda says. Now we have, as students of Vedanta, we have Shraddha in the Vedas, and uh, we are kind of giving a benefit of doubt, putting a faith on Vedas. Like when we look with our eyes, we have a sense of trust in our eyes that what we are seeing, we actually are seeing, and it is real, and we have a certain trust in our eyes. Similarly, we are giving a trust in Veda and uh, the teachings of our Guru, which we have to understand as knowledge by continuous Ravanam and understanding. We have to and assimilating. We will understand exactly that. We will know actually that.
Okay. I had a doubt like in this text only. There was an example given of bison and like bison, and it was like told like everything else including the bison, everything else is anatma. Okay. So but in them itself, like they will also have the soul or the atma. They will not be conscious about it, but they in themselves will also be a Brahman, right? Like they are also the Brahman. So in that way, I couldn't actually understand how they are like kind of anatma.
Yeah, in that way, see, we can understand this from 2 points. One is from the point of I as Atma, whatever I can objectify, I see as there is no Atma inside me. I am myself, I am Atma. This consciousness itself is Atma. And it is this Brahman itself is manifesting as the entire world, as my body, my mind, whatever objects I see, whatever animals live in this world, whatever non-living things exist also is Brahman only. So entire world is nothing but Brahman. It is nothing but a projection of Maya, manifestation. It is manifestation, nothing but manifestation. But to understand this true I, what I really am, I need to first dissociate myself from what I can objectify. Like I want to know that I am not I am not a this body because I can objectify it. I am I'm not something an animal because I can again objectify it, and I clearly know that I am different from it. So we are actually getting to this very consciousness, the root, the real uh, Atma, that which actually manifests into all this world, animals, insects, and every non-living things. Everything is a manifestation of this one Atma. So we are trying to reach to that. For that, we are employing a process of distinguishing between this Atma and Anatma, or Atma and myself and subject and object. Like we studied a text with Swaminiji earlier, which is Drigdirsha Viveka. Um, there we again go into this very process of distinguishing the subject and the object. So, uh, so that is what we are basically doing, to trying to reach at what I really am, understanding. See, this body is not permanent. This body undergoes change. The animal body is also not permanent. All that undergoes change. I'm trying to understand what is the real me, what is the real I that does not change, what is the real I that is permanent, that exists always, what is that I am trying to know. For that, we have to negate whatever impermanent and whatever objectifiable, whatever changes, whatever that is impermanent, I have to know that. So from that point of view, I am taking my consciousness myself as I, and whatever I can objectify, I am classifying it as anatma. For that, for this understanding, to reach in the understanding of that which does not change, that is the, to reach the nitya vastu, we are separating this all that is anitya from it. It does not mean that any animal is not anatma, or anything is not anatma. So animal is not atma, or animal is not brahman, is not what we are saying. To understand the real I, to get into we call this body I, or we call this body mind sense complex as I, or we associate this I with different aspects of anatma. So from that, we are trying to reach the exact atma, that which is nothing but Brahman. That changeless nature we are trying to reach. It is actually not imaginable with our mind, because that we try to do that, imagine inside our mind, but it is not actually objectifiable. So we can never imagine that in our mind. Mind cannot objectify this Brahman. So did you understand, or did I just confuse you?
No. It was yeah, it is good actually, whatever you explained. So if I can, like, just like, it may not be the correct statement, but if I simply say, so the knowledge of I is what is Atma, but everything else which is not the knowledge of I is Anatma, like, which I can objectify.
Yes, yeah. That which is not I, that which I can objectify is definitely different from me, the real me. I'm trying to know real me. So to real me, we are moving from that which changes, that is which is impermanent, to the what is the real essence of it all. That we are searching. That is real me. So that we are looking at. And there is also from this Mahavakya also, the first one would be this Tattvamasi, that you are. The Guru says to the Shishya that Brahman, that which is changeless and permanent and all that which is described, he describes what Brahman is, and then tells the student that you are that Atma, that Brahman, you are. And late that, and there we use the word that, because we are yet not in the understand, we have not reached that understanding, or we have not actually understood that we are that Brahman. There is still some sort of a difference between I and the Brahman. So that's why you are saying that, trying to help him understand, the Guru says that. And from that understanding, he comes to an that when he actually knows this Brahman, then he understands that there is nothing that is separate from Brahman. There is no existence separate from Brahman. Brahman itself is the manifest as the world. So then the statement would be Aham Brahmasmi. Then we can exactly now we are we cannot say that because it will be kind of dishonest for us to say. Won't be because we don't know exactly. We have not reached that understanding.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yes. True.
7:51. Yeah. So yeah, I think we can close up now because on 8 o'clock we have Swamiji's class.
Okay. Thanks a lot,
Om Pur.
Swamiji.
Yeah, sure.
Thank you.
Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om. Sri Guru Namaha. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Shamadan.
Yeah, thank you.
ಧನ್ಯವಾದ.
We'll meet.